A recent interview with Todd Howard indicates that they would like to support Starfield for 10 years. He even made mention of Fallout 76 and how they approached the game with the mindset of they would need to support it for as long as they could, and they went into Starfield with that same line of thinking. In my latest upload, I outline what I think this means in two different ways: the ongoing plan, as well as the fact that I believe they could have an online plan for Starfield, similar to what they've done with ESO and Fallout 76. So be sure to check out that upload. We start every day with an upload. It's sort of a monologue. I went and grabbed some quotes and some snippets that I think you really need to hear. If you have not checked out that Todd Howard interview yet with Mr. Matty Plays, be sure to check that out. It's rather lengthy, so I went and grabbed what I felt like was pertinent to some of my theories and some of my thoughts. So if you go and watch that, you will know what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Some of this is wishful thinking on my part because I have ideas and things that I would love to see about Starfield happen. I say in the video, it's my new Cyberpunk. I would love to see this game sort of turn things around and get into a better position. Its current status on Steam is very poor. That is partially related to the situation with the microtransactions, which I didn't even really think was that big of a deal, but it's also just the overall score on Steam has never been that good either, and I think that's because a lot of people were very disappointed. Interestingly enough, in my research for this, and even trying to get a thumbnail put together this morning, I did find quotes where Todd said that this game would be like Skyrim in space, which I found incredibly not true, like at all. It feels far more like Fallout in space than Skyrim. And that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted No Man's Skyrim. So maybe they can get the game closer to that. I don't know if the new like sort of bespoke content that's going to be its own thing can help them with that. I'm also not able to find any information about, you know, how far in the game do you have to be if you want to engage with Shattered Space having its renaissance moment. I don't know if it's having it yet, Severin. I feel like Shattered Space will sort of be the beginning of that. If they can pull off Shattered Space to the same degree that we saw Phantom Liberty celebrated to the degree that it was for Cyberpunk. I mean, Phantom Liberty won an award. So I think Bethesda still has the charm when they go into a more traditional development style, and I think that's what we're going to get in Shattered Space. To this day, I don't feel that Starfield landed the way that they even wanted it to. I think that's why they're committed to doing the updates. Now, he did say in the interview that those updates every 6 weeks, he doesn't think that's going to ring true. I think he said there's going to be larger gaps in between some of the updates because if they're bigger, it just makes sense that you're going to wait a little bit longer. I don't think they view that update every 6 weeks as like a rigid thing. So there are going to be larger gaps, which I'm okay with because I would like to see, you know, some foundational things adjusted and changed. If they can do anything about the loading screens, which that's probably wishful thinking, but I was enjoying the questing whenever I did it, but I still felt as though the game was very compartmentalized. It was like everything felt very disjointed and disconnected. It was hard to feel like there was a flow state that you could get with the game. So hope you guys get the game on PS5. I assume you will eventually. Yeah, I mean, I lightly included that in the video. I continue to think that is still happening. I think that's probably next year after Shattered Space lands. I think Shattered Space will be fourth quarter this year so they can get as much, you know, time, you know, preparing and improving the game as possible. A lot of people were, you know, responding to the video this morning saying, somebody responded and said started field. That's actually very funny. They're just getting started field. But that was from Bumblepants. Thank you, Bumblepants. That's a funny comment. Dave Langer commented on the video and said, Starfield Online not being on the creation engine would be a good thing. Maybe the new engine would allow them to fully explore planets in space without having to fast travel to each thing. Yeah, I thought that was interesting that, like, in my mind, I think there's a very real possibility that we could see, you know, a Starfield Online, and then we found the ZeniMax Online website is talking about it, and then they have like the job posting that they're working on a new project and they are building a new engine for this new project. That now they use the Hero engine for the Elder Scrolls Online, which is an engine that's commonly used and it's literally built for MMOs. So if they're switching engines, they're either going to do another MMO and they need something that maybe is newer or better, or they're not doing an MMO, which would be something more like, actually, I don't know, honestly, because I think they consider Fallout 76 an MMO, so I guess that doesn't work. I don't think of Fallout 76 in the same way that I think about Elder Scrolls Online, but they're still pretty much classified the same way, I believe. And this guy, on that subject, sorry, excuse me, the Cisco says, couldn't the new engine that ZeniMax Online is working on be the Creation Engine 2? I thought that was supposed to be what Starfield was in. I thought Starfield was supposed to be in Creation Engine like 2.0 or whatever. Mr. Grimm says, I put up with Bethesda's boring cookie-cutter stories, their soulless robotic NPCs, and all the bugs because of the exploration aspect of Bethesda games. Starfield doesn't have meaningful exploration. I wonder if that's why a lot of Bethesda fans put in the time that they did. Like, that's always a question. Creation Engine 2 exists already? Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought they already did that. They, like, updated the engine specifically for Starfield. But there was always a lot of questions about why did people play the game so long on Steam and then still give it a negative review? And I wonder if that's why, that they were hoping, that exploration would start to have a payoff, or that their shipbuilding or outpost building would somehow start to make the game, more exciting. That, to me, could be a decent theory into why would Bethesda fans, because a lot of the people who commented and reviewed the game on Steam, a lot of them were Bethesda fans, and why were they so harsh on the game even after putting so much time into it? I thought the new Elder Scrolls game was the first one to use the new Creation Engine. I thought the same thing. I don't know if that's explicitly stated anywhere. I don't think you would say you're building a new engine and then just say, oh, it's Creation Engine 2. That wouldn't make any sense. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't think you would use that phrasing. I think maybe done with giving these companies second chances, says Eugene. Well, I know that's a sentiment that a lot of people hold about games these days. They're like, well, if we keep giving these games second chances, they're going to keep launching them before they're ready. And given what happens to games when they launch and they're not ready and the financial risk, I really don't think that is something that we're risking. I'm not saying that's what you're arguing, Eugene. But a lot of people have argued that like if we give these games a second chance, they're going to make that a pattern and a habit. This guy's the Guadict. He says, I hope the expansion has some character. My main complaint with the main game is that it just feels sanitized. None of the characters have any personality. It has no grit. It's just safe and bland. I mean, I would agree with that. I liked the clandestine mission that I was working on around the time that I stopped playing, and then I remember I came into outer space after doing that mission, and that was when they introduced the Starborn, and to me, it started to get interesting then, and then I made the fatal mistake of going and playing Phantom Liberty. And Phantom Liberty is just light years better. It's not even a comparison, right? And they're similar games, right? You have the RPG elements, your skill trees, you've got guns, all these conversations and decisions that you can make that change the outcome of things, quests, side quests, people that want you to side with them and people over here that want you to side with them. And it's like they're very, very, similar style games in many respects. And Cyberpunk just did virtually everything better. Gunplay felt better. Conversations and the NPCs were better. Voice acting was better. It was graphically, performance-wise, 60 FPS, like all those things. It was just a better experience. And that was a game. I started with Cyberpunk like 3 or 4 times. I just bounced off that game. I just couldn't get into it. And the fact that they let me start with Phantom Liberty was a huge selling point, Guys, do me a quick favor. We've been streaming for about 10 minutes, man. Smash that like button. Give us our first 100 likes. We have made an adjustment to the goal for Friday night. Creature made a really good point in the members-only writers' room yesterday that you guys exceeded last week's goal by like 200. So to me, if everybody would have kind of pumped the brakes and waited and did those extra 200 members this week, you would be on pace. So we decided that that was fair. It doesn't seem fair to like not give you credit for everything you've done as a month. Like every month can kind of be its own thing. So I feel like that's fair. Like we should give you guys credit because you guys really did go crazy last week. So right now, if I give you credit for that, you only need 100 members today and tomorrow instead of 200 each day. That's just not going to happen. I don't think that's fair to ask. So we're trying to be fair and fun with the incentives and the Friday night thing. Because, like, ordinarily, I wouldn't stream and do stuff on a Friday night. That's why we do that extra stream as, like, a thank you to the members and to the people that go crazy in gifts. So Hilly and I will do that. We will end up having to fight the Tree Sentinel. We'll boot up Elden Ring. I have a 3-hour-old character in Elden Ring. So we'll do that tomorrow night. We will still play the Chain Together game. We will still play that game. That game will be hilarious, I'm sure, to watch us play that together. So you'll get both. It's not like if you get the Elden Ring thing that you're going to lose the funny game as well. J-Dog, Han shot first and so did you. He's like, okay, let's get started then. He's like, we can do that. That's very attainable. That's very, very attainable goal. I think you guys have far exceeded that in previous weeks. And we just thought that was a great way to, I think, say thank you for what you guys did last week, because last week was crazy. The game was pushed back on numerous occasions, so the issues we have with the game shouldn't even be a thing. I understand it had to meet specific time frame, but fans were being so patient, says Ghost14. John Lepkowski joins the beginning of the member push right now, and he gives a single member, takes us to 2 on the day. Thank you so much, John. Yeah, I mean, I have my own theories about why the game got delayed and why Todd Howard went from saying, the date was set in ink to it being delayed twice and then launching and being just not in the greatest of states. So, like, I have my own theories about what happened there. I don't even know if that's worth revisiting. I think it's just time to give them, at least I am going to. I don't think everybody has to do this. Detonator Gifts, a member, got a little single gifted train going right now. Thank you so much. I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but what I'm willing to do is say, well, if you're willing to commit to long-term to your game, if you're willing to commit to that, then I'm willing to give you a shot. Like, I'm willing to jump back in. Like when CD Projekt Red did that with Cyberpunk and they said, we're committed to this game, and they were consistently updating the game, adding features, adding content, improving the game. I kept coming back to Cyberpunk. I kept coming back and I kept saying, okay, I'll give you a shot. I'll give you a shot. I'll give you a shot. I decided this time with Starfield that instead of coming back every time they did an update, I would wait for something more substantive. I would say, okay, I'm going to wait. I need you to do something more than just like give me 60 FPS. So I decided I'm going to take an entire break from the game until Shattered Space lands in the hopes that it feels like a vastly improved game. Because when I came back to Cyberpunk with Phantom Liberty, that happened. Now, in my mind, I would love for them to let me just jump in with a brand new character with Shattered Space the way that Phantom Liberty did. So if they don't let me do that, I'll be very curious. Like, am I going to need to grind Starfield, in the months and weeks that lead up to the DLC coming out, which thank goodness I can do that, in the comfort of my living room with 60 FPS now with that update. Patrick Q with a gifted member. You said it won't, LOL. I mean, do you have any information on that? Why is that comical to think that they might let you do that? They did that with Phantom Liberty. I mean, there's no reason to think that that's not at least possible. How about Diablo 4? I've been holding off on going back to Diablo 4 just because, like, I'm not in the mood for an isometric dungeon crawler. I'm just, my wife and I are working on the Talos Principle 2. We were really enjoying Gunfire Reborn. And so, like, when it comes to a co-op game right now, I'm just not looking to play that. Yo, Joker Quinn gifts a member. Little single train going. J-Dog called for one and he got one. 5 members out of 25. We'll see if any of the big boys want to come in and disrupt all this and drop that 20 bombs that Stone Spire's always trying to get people to do. Sergeant McCluskey got a gifted member. Nice to see that. Good. If Sarge, if you're here, good to see you. Last year, Lono did a Starfield should be multiplayer vid. It was the show he learned that Redfall was 30 FPS and it hijacked the stream. It was a classic. Oh, I forgot about that. We were like not even that far into the stream, were we? It wasn't very long, and then we learned it would be a 30 FPS game. Remember, Starfield will never be on PS5. LOL. Okay. David Farias left a lengthy comment on the upload. You can always do that and get featured in the live stream. And Brett Williams keeps the single train alive, and he gifts 1 and takes us to 6. Thanks so much for doing that, Brett. David Farias says, in my opinion, they fell off the success of Skyrim instead of sticking to the development that they knew. They had this, we need 10-year engagement. Because of that, Starfield suffered for it. Leaned too much into procedurally generated content. Enemy placement became predictable. Enemy corridor and loot placement was repetitive. I was so stoked for this game. Hope it gets Phantom Liberty moment as well. You know what? I can see that. I can see their idea that, like, this thing needs to go for 10 years. That could have harmed the creative process. It could have made people... It could have made the development... go in a direction that was unhelpful. They started leaning on things that you would see in like a live service game. They started leaning on things that you might see in an ongoing game like an MMO or something. Because he says in that interview with Matty Plays, yo, good morning, Feed, I see you in the chat. He says in that Matty Plays interview, he's basically like, look, when you start these games now, you almost have to think about... He uses the phrase 10-year horizon, and it's like, that's just an interesting phrase to use about a game like Starfield. And he transitions from talking about Fallout 76 to saying that, like, we went into Starfield with the same mindset of we're going to support this as long as we possibly can, and... They went into Starfield with the same mindset that they did with Fallout 76, and that's what makes me think they would do something like a Starfield Online, like a separate game, call it, I don't know, like call it Starfield Factions or something, where, or Starfield, the Faction Wars, where you basically are playing some kind of an MMO where you choose a faction and you run missions, and maybe there's PvP, maybe there's not, and you have this online element to the game. You can run quests and, be a gun runner or whatever. And I think there's a lot of potential for that. Now, somebody's saying in my comments that if they did it in the creation engine, it wouldn't work because you'd be dealing with all of the loading screens and you'd be dealing with all of the rough edges of the creation engine. I think my issue with that is if you don't do it in the creation engine, is it going to feel and look like Starfield? Is it going to have that sort of charm of the creation engine? And I'm not talking about like... the charm of bugs, but is it going to have that charm of, you can build your ship, you can build an outpost, the modders, I don't know if they'd want to necessarily, do they let the modders do anything with Fallout 76? Is that an aspect of that game or not? Because if you're wanting to let people sort of build, have outposts and be creative, that would be my thought is, are you able to do that in another engine and have it feel like Starfield? You wouldn't want it to feel like a completely different game. Buffalo Wing Dave in the members-only Discord says, the biggest issue with Starfield is the universe does not have personality. It does not feel like space or even planets because it's just small sections that are not really connected. Unless they can let us explore space and the planets with no load screens, then immersion will always be broken. Yeah, I mean, we ran through that theory yesterday that they had different plans for the planets that, had to change over time, whether that was development constraints or things that they had to prioritize, or I obviously have my own thoughts about that. It was the Series S, and that's why Xbox sent engineers to help Bethesda. I don't know why at that stage of development you would need to send people to help them, unless that was the reason. But that's my own theory. I don't see why you would have had the game in development that long and suddenly needed help to bring the game to Xbox. Elsewhere Broadcast says, my concern with yearly expansions is pricing. If they charge $20 per expansion for 10 years, full game will cost $250 if you want to play day one. Well, I mean, hang on a minute. What you're saying, I don't agree with. I think when games do ongoing DLCs or ongoing content deliverables, they're allowed to charge for them, and you can't turn around and say, like, let's say in 4 years you spend an additional $80. you can't add that to the 70 of the game and be like, well, I spent $150. Well, it's like, well, no, you, as an ongoing way, you were adding content for 20 each time. And if after you do it 3 times, you feel like, well, this isn't worth it, or after 1 time or whatever, you feel like this isn't worth it, I mean, then why keep paying? How else do you expect to get substantive content ongoing would be my pushback. You expect them to add substantive content to the game and not charge money for it? I always think that attitude is backwards. It's like you're basically asking them to do something that's antithetical to value. It's like, just give us free content. Well, free content's going to be at the quality that you paid. Since you paid nothing, I would expect nothing. I wouldn't expect anything worth playing if it was all free. Stone Spire with a VIP for 14 months. So many things they could do with this IP, especially the hundreds of years of the faction wars. They could do prequels and then jump into the future after the first game. Great work as always done. We immediately reconnected. Chat, that's going to be a blip. We switched ingest servers. I don't know why YouTube did that. That's something that typically happens in the afternoon when we're in members. I always assumed it happened in members because we have less viewers than the public streams. So if your audio gets messed up or anything like that, just refresh the stream. It should fix it. Starfield cost $70. How was the quality? I mean, if you want to take issue with the $70 that you spent at release and feel like you didn't get quality content, then you're allowed to make that criticism. I would make that criticism. I bought the collector's edition. I bought it on Steam, and I felt like I got a subpar game, for sure. I'm speaking about the idea and the philosophy that you can't charge for content ongoing. I was pushing back on the notion that, like, well, if they charge $20 a year for content, 10 years from now, you'll have spent hundreds of dollars. And I'm like, but that's how it should be. If you're going to add content to a game, they should charge money for it. I'm a firm believer that devs should charge for what they make. The entitlement and the I don't want to pay for anything, I think is like probably the worst and most unpleasant attitude in the gaming space. Right? I do. I think it's like it's the most unpleasant thing. It's like that's the big boast and that's the big flex now. Like all the arguments I see on Twitter, it's like every single time it whittles down to if anybody's being critical, they're like, well, we don't have to buy games. And it's like that's not I don't get how is that a flex? I just don't get that. I don't understand that one. And it's a distant cousin to the idea that they shouldn't charge money for the content that they're adding. I know that there were people that had that attitude about Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty, and I just didn't agree. I was like, if they put that level of work into the content, then they should charge more. Is lighting dim today? No, the white shirt just always messes with it. It's the lights aren't any different. If it's on Game Pass and Microsoft made it or was involved in making the game, it's going to be trash. I mean, I don't think that you can say that about... I'm not even going to engage with what you're saying. You're just trying to start stuff. But look what happened with the DLC content. When you bought the game, they gave us a free mission, and now they're charging a $7 mission, which could have been free. I think the irritation with the Creation Club and the $7 mission is just pointless. Just don't buy it. Like, it's that simple. Everything in the Creation Club is completely optional. Just don't buy it. Listen, at this point, if you're typing on YouTube or Reddit or Twitter and complaining about something like this, I have to tell you, you didn't have to buy the game at launch. You could have waited. The reviews and the streamers and Steam user scores, you could have waited and seen. Like, if you feel like, oh, I bought the game and it wasn't worth it. If you're that plugged in, if you're on Reddit and Twitter and YouTube, I don't have any tolerance for that anymore. Just don't buy the game. Don't buy it. Wait. If you bought because you lacked the self-control and then you felt like, oh, I didn't get a good game, and then you get to carry that disappointment in perpetuity, so if the developer does anything, you're like, no, you can't charge for this. It's like, well, I understand the optics of the game not launching in the greatest of states, and feeling like, oh, now you're trying to sell me extra content. But they've committed to fix the game. They've committed to add patches. They've committed to update it and do these things every 6 weeks. And if you see a $7 mission and you think that that should be free, I just don't buy it. Just ignore it. If nobody buys it, then they'll rethink and they won't do it. Like, one of the best things you can do is not buy something. Instead of buying and complaining, like, again, and I don't have a problem with companies making content and selling it. I like, at a philosophical level, that doesn't bother me. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. If you wanted the extra thing, I mean, when they did the $10 upgrade for Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, and everybody, complained and moaned about that, I said, the beauty of this is, if you don't think it's worth buying, then there's a real easy way to communicate that. You just don't buy it. It's that simple. If you don't think that $10 upgrade was worth it, if you don't think that $7 worth it, then you communicate that loud and clear by not buying it. Not saying they shouldn't charge, but it seems there's just too much procedural content, not enough handcrafted in the vanilla game. Expansions may solve that. Well, no, that's a valid criticism. Now you're criticizing the game content from a perspective of like what you value, and what you value is handcrafted content, which a lot of people felt the same way about Starfield. They felt that Bethesda had lost their way. They walked away from, handcrafted environmental storytelling. And it just didn't feel like that. It felt more empty, bland, and soulless. It's really easy to not buy and support practices you don't agree with. Yeah, I've seen that. Thank you, Lone Wolf. Ghost of Tsushima DLC was great. I don't even know what the complaints were about that. You had to pay $10 to upgrade if you wanted all the extra stuff they added for the PS5. Like, if you owned the PS4 version of Tsushima, you had to spend $10 to upgrade if you wanted, like, all the updates and the new content that they had added. They had added DualSense support, 3D audio, they had updated the voices or something with the mouths. That was what made everybody angry. And I was like, if you don't want to pay them for the extra work that they did, then don't. It's that simple. Like, if you don't feel like you should be charged $7 for a mission, then don't buy it. That's the loudest and clearest way to say to them, hey, you shouldn't do this. I'm okay with you coupling not buying it with also vocalizing your criticism, but I also just don't care. It's like, I don't care about stuff like that. I don't care about trinkets and trash that games sell. Like, here's a teddy bear to put into your house, or here's a this, or here's a that. I've never cared about that stuff. If they make substantive content like Shattered Space and they sell it, that's what I'm interested in. And then I'm going to judge that content based on the expectations of, what Todd Howard said. It's $20, right? It's its own location. I'm going to judge it within that context as to whether or not I felt it was worth it. But if your game launches in a disappointing state, or launches and has problems, and those problems need to be fixed over time, I don't agree with the idea that, they're just not allowed to charge for anything for forever because they launched a game that was in a bad place. Like, economically, you can't expect a company to do that, to be like, well, we launched our game before it was ready, we're committed to fixing it, and we've been fixing it, and we are also going to be selling extras and selling cosmetics or selling content or whatever. And it's like, well, no, you don't have a right to do that because your game launched with problems. And it's like, well, then, Jiminy Christmas, what's the measurement then? When can they charge for money? Can they ever charge for money, right? $7 for a mission, I'll pass. A teddy bear, let's go. That's what I'm saying. That stuff just doesn't matter to me. I saw the $7 mission in the same category as all of the other trinkets. It was like, it's nothing. It's not meant, I didn't feel like it was meant to be, some scummy cash grab. It felt like, it literally felt like an optional thing. Like, oh yeah, we made this thing if you want it. My impression of the Creation Club was that it was there for the community to make stuff, and that Bethesda wouldn't be going in there and jamming all of their own stuff in there. I mean, they might. I don't know. I think the pushback, Lono, isn't the fact that they are charging. It's the fact that it's a high cost for what I'm assuming to be a low amount of content. I mean, maybe if it was $5, it wouldn't have gotten the pushback, because I feel like people see $5 and it's like, oh, it's $5. I think the 7 is an odd choice, you know? It's like, oh, $5, you know? But I still think people would have been upset. They would have been like, oh, are you going to nickel and dime us now for content? I also think you have to kind of read the room, right? You have to read the room. You do. Before Starfield launched, I suggested to you that it should have online. You poo-pooed it. Now after release, you suggest it. That's not true. What you're saying is completely and utterly false. I have videos before it happened saying that multiplayer would be awesome. What are you talking about? I made content before the game dropped saying that would be great. What do you mean? I don't think I ever poo-pooed it. I probably said that it would be really hard and they might not do it, but then we looked at Fallout 76. If my memory is correct, we covered that. I literally have a show on that. I would have never shot down that idea and poo-pooed it. I was one of the people that said that I wanted it. I was one of the people that said that would be awesome, that it would make the game amazing. Leaked gameplay goes gold. This is a good sign. Hang on. No, the danger of hype. Game is too big. Interview reaction. It could win game of the year. 30 FPS truth. Right here. On April the 12th of 2023, I did a show called Starfield Multiplayer is Needed? ? In that video, I'm very confident I was in support of the idea. Here's the description of the video. Many people think that Starfield multiplayer is needed, and I want to talk about why it could be amazing. That doesn't sound like I poo-pooed the idea. That's in April. Under the weather? No, I feel fine. It's that morning, the wonderful morning voice thing that happens. I've not been warming my voice up in the morning. When people start poo-pooing, everyone gets dirty. That's what I'm saying. I suggested before that. I have a really hard time believing there was ever a time I shot that down and said, what did I say? I would never say that. I'm always like, give me multiplayer, give me co-op, give me couch co-op. I'm always like begging for that in a game. I can't envision a time where I said, oh no, multiplayer in Starfield, that would do it. What did I say to you? You're saying I poo-pooed it. What phrasing did I use? Did I say it was unlikely? I might have said it was unlikely because I might have been basing it off of everything we knew up to that point was that they were building a single-player RPG. So I may have shot down the possibility. That's not the same as me saying that, oh, I wouldn't like it. Goodness gracious, I'm always saying that. Freaking every time there's a trailer, I'm like, is there co-op? Is there co-op? Is there multiplayer? Can I play with somebody else? That's like the number one request I have of games. Remember that time that I suggested you should drink water and you poo-pooed it, but here you are still alive? You didn't shoot it down, you just dismissed my humble mutterings. I would need to know how and why I dismissed it though. I may have been dismissive because it was like, no, I don't think they're going to do it. It looks like a single-player RPG. That doesn't mean I'm like poo-pooing it like, oh no. I was fully in support of multiplayer for the longest time. I was like, that would be amazing. I did the same thing with Hogwarts Legacy. I was like, this game is begging for co-op. Are you kidding me? I would have, oh my gosh, I probably would have played Hogwarts twice as much if I would have been able to play it with my wife. His co-op thing is pretty established and worrisome at this point. Yeah, Zubair was giving me grief about that during one of the showcases. If there's co-op, I just absolutely... When they said they were adding co-op to Cult of the Lamb, I got so excited. When they said they were adding co-op to Brotato, I got excited, which we still don't have a date for the Brotato update, but I believe we have a date for the Cult of the Lamb thing is August 12th or August 15th. It's in August. He's been holding on to that dismissal for a long time, and he finally let it out. I'm poo-pooing it now. Oh, wait. Why, Brian? So, okay, you changed your mind? You changed your mind. You don't think they should do it? By the way, I don't think they should add multiplayer to the game of Starfield. I think they should do something separate like they did with Fallout 76 and like they did with The Elder Scrolls Online. I think it would be better if it was completely separate, because the substance of Starfield is so firmly built around you making decisions and interacting with NPCs. Like, that doesn't work unless you just do a companion update where someone can be your companion and they don't have their own story. Derek says, I appreciate you fostering a wider view discussion. My DLC playtime has been exclusively in the $20 range, and top 10 experiences for me: Left Behind, Frozen Wilds, all the Fallout 4 stuff. Yeah, I don't have a problem at all with, if a game's going to add content that I think is worth it. Yeah, Burning Shores. Like, if they were doing that every year in Horizon, I wouldn't give a frick. I'd be buying that every time. If the first time I buy, like, let's just take Shattered Space as an example. If I buy Shattered Space and I love it and I'm like, that was an amazing experience, do you know what I'm going to do the next time they drop a DLC? Well, I'm going to buy the next one, right? Now, as a content creator, I'm going to buy the next one regardless. But if I'm speaking as a player, if I wasn't a YouTuber, and the first one stunk, I wouldn't buy the next one. But if they prove the concept, then, dude, by all means, keep going, keep adding, keep selling content. Brian says, because of how the game actually is, I went off of the marketing as how they presented the game. Yeah, we might be in agreement then, Brian. We might be in an agreement. I don't think you should add multiplayer to Starfield unless it was just something as simple as you can bring somebody along with you as a companion. They're not going to be engaging with the NPCs. They're not going to be making decisions with respect to the story. They're just helping you shoot stuff. Like, that could be fun. Outside of that, I don't think multiplayer would work all that well in Starfield. I think it would work better as a separate thing, like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76. For the same reasons, like if you play Skyrim and you play Fallout 4, it really wouldn't work to have your buddy there with you. Now, it could have worked, obviously, if you're working on a mission and we both go back and talk to the person, you could say something different than me. But the problem with that is that creates branches in some of the content that then gets messed up if they're making a different decision than you. You know, if the person's like, hey, can you do this favor for me? And they're like, no, I don't like you. And I'm like, yes, I want to marry you. Now the game's messed up. It's like, well, we're both making completely different decisions. An example of what you're saying: I really enjoyed the main game of Outer Worlds, but then I bought the first DLC and didn't like it, so as a result, I skipped the second one. Right, like, and I think that's exactly the best approach as the consumer is, okay, let me try out your DLC. Well, that was a heaping pile, and then you don't buy the next one. Or you buy the DLC, and like, I'll tell you what Shadow of the Erdtree is going to do. People are going to be begging FromSoft to make another one, but they're not going to. There's almost no way that they're, well, I mean, they might, but I don't think they're going to. I think, knowing FromSoft, this will be their send-off to Elden Ring, and then they'll move on to the next project, right? But if they were going to do another one, you better believe people would buy it, because we all know, we've seen the reviews. You know, the quality of that DLC is very high. That's already been established by the reviews. Now, Reckless Gambit left a comment on my upload. Guys, always make sure and check out the upload and leave a comment. You might get featured in the live stream. He says, I would like to think it's just getting started. I'd like to see where they can take it. I'm just not sure if the demand is there. We don't actually know how profitable the game has been or has potential to be. As you stated, it's got to go to PlayStation to reach critical mass. I hope 10-year promises ring true. Yeah, same. I agree. Yeah, if you guys go watch and leave a comment on the video and then come back to the live stream, I may read your comment in the live stream, so let me know if you do that. Yeah, Miyazaki's moving on to something else, isn't he? I don't think he wants to keep working on Elden Ring. I think they're done. I think they're going to do another project. I think Miyazaki's got another fantasy game that he wants to build, and then I think after that they may consider, I think they might have an Elden Ring sequel cut in line. It was so successful, but I don't know. Miyazaki has confirmed that Elden Ring won't get any more DLC. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. That's just how they roll. They're like, yeah, here you go, and then they move on. They don't like hang around on IPs. Yeah, no, they don't. It's just not their style. which I kind of respect. The reason I don't like Starfield in Creation Engine is because of all the bugs and loading screens. All my other games this gen don't have those issues. Well, I mean, on that subject, like what Reckless Gambit just said, if they are... I don't see supporting a game for 10 years if you're not actively trying to sell it. So I'm of the same mind. I'm in agreement that they're doing all this work and they're making all these changes and updates because they are planning on bringing this to PlayStation to sell it, because there is a very large Bethesda audience on PlayStation. You can look at the sales of Fallout 4 for evidence of this. So the question would be, in its current state, I mean, I don't know if they can get it to that place where there are no loading screens. Like, are people going to have... Is it going to get the same reception that it got on Steam? Like, the reception on Steam was not very good. It just wasn't very good. And the game would need to be significantly better if they want to get a positive reception on PlayStation. That would be my thought. That's why when we were talking about this yesterday in the writers' room, I said... I could honestly see them never moving Starfield to PlayStation, and they make an online game. You call it Starfield Online or something, and that lands everywhere, right? Because that would be a completely different approach to the game, that they might be able to avoid some of the challenges that the main game faces. A 6-spot from Server Error says, Ghost of Tsushima had free DLC. Gamers, hooray... single player. A few months later, pay $10 for extra work. Gamers boo Sony. Yeah, I know. They gave us free stuff in that game. They gave you the Legends mode just for free in Ghost of Tsushima. Astro's Playroom had a Bloodborne hidden trophy added this week. Dude, I just think they're messing with people at this point. I do. They're just messing with people. There is no Bloodborne coming. I refuse to believe it. Until a Bloodborne remaster or remake is installed on my PlayStation and I can boot it up and play it, I won't believe it. It'll all be fake. You know what I mean? Jeff Keighley can walk out with Miyazaki and Herman Hulst and announce that it's coming, and I'd be like, this is a deep fake. I won't believe it. I won't believe it until I can actually turn it on and play it. They're just messing with people at this point. Fallout 5 is going to be 8 or 9 years away for sure. Yeah, that was something that came out of the interview. And a 5-bomb from MASH takes us to 11. Guys, we did lower the goal. We had a good discussion in members yesterday. We thought it was fair. You went well over last week. You had 200 extra members last week that you did not need to gift, and you did anyway. We're basically carrying that over to this week and giving you credit for that 200. So you currently have 300 members for the week. I think that that's fair. You guys went absolutely above and beyond last week. So you only need 100 members today and 100 members tomorrow. Oh, Sucker Punch. I thought you were talking about single player. I was like, people praise single player. What the frick? I was so confused. Astro bought a bunch of different trophies, or brought, maybe you meant to say, that are going to release and stagger before the release of the new game. Yeah, I just think they're doing that to mess with people to promote the new game. When Starfield dropped, I played it 2 weeks straight, got to New Game Plus, and none of the cities would load, and I quit right then and there. Haven't played since. You couldn't get the cities to load on New Game Plus? I don't know if I ever heard about that glitch. Launching Starfield multiplayer on a place without Starfield would be dumb. None of those players would have played the base game wanting more. I mean, I think that's fair pushback, Chris. I think that's fair to say, no, they're not going to do that. Like, what I argued in the video was, what I argued in the upload, that I said Starfield is just getting started. I said that they could bring Starfield to the PlayStation 5 as the precursor, get everybody excited, hey, the game's really turned a corner, the game is in a much better place, and then, after that, what you would do is then you'd bring the online game later, you know, if my theory is correct. Currently, Starfield is sitting at 88,000 positive reviews versus 65,000 negative. It's mostly light game. No, it's not. Where are you getting that number? What are you talking about? That's not true at all. What are you saying? Wait. You're saying 88,000 positive versus 65,000. It's a mostly liked game. Wait, homie, that's not how that number is calculated. So you're saying more people like it than dislike it? Is that what you're saying? That's what the 59% represents? Is that what you think? So if you go into the recent reviews. No, I don't want recent reviews. I want review type. Oh, I see what you're doing. You're going to review type and you're saying 88,000 people like it. You guys can see up here in the corner. 88,000 people have given it a positive review. 65,000 people have not. Okay. So what you're saying is that if let's just take this and round this up to 90. Okay. And let's just take this and round this up to 70. So a 9 and a 7. If you add 9 and 7 together, it's a 16. Okay. If you took a test and you got that many answers wrong, you wouldn't have a very good score. That's the point, is that the game is very split. So when you see this 59%, what that's saying is 59% gave it a positive review. So yes, you're correct. More people gave it a positive review than gave it a negative review, right? What that means is 6 out of 10 people said it's good, 4 out of 10 people said it's not, or they don't recommend it. They gave it a negative thumbs down, which is they don't recommend the game, okay? The problem with how you're representing it is when we look at game scores on Steam and we look at scores on like PlayStation and we look at scores on Xbox, we would never say there's equal amount of people giving it 5 stars as 1 star, or there's more people giving it 5 stars versus 1 star. If 6 people give it 5 stars and 4 people give it 1 star, that's not good. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you take 10 people and 6 people say it's a 5-star game and 4 people say it's a 1-star game, that's not very compelling. That's almost split right down the middle. You're one person away from it being right down the middle. 50-50 people are saying it's good. 50-50 people are saying it's bad. That's not good, bro. Do you think anybody's coming to Steam and seeing a 59% and concluding what you're concluding? That there's more people that like it than dislike it? Do you understand? Like, you're technically correct in what you said. You didn't say anything that was like technically or factually wrong, but that's not compelling. I don't think it's compelling. I don't want to play a game where 6 people gave it a thumbs up and 4 people gave it a thumbs down. I'm like, that's not a very good ratio. It's obviously polarizing, but most reviewers like it. No hive mind mentality, just numbers. Women like men lie, numbers don't. Oh, for Pete's sakes. Everybody lies. I went to college for business. Raw numbers rule all. I appreciate your $5 super chats. I appreciate that you went to college for business. Homie, if you've got 2 companies that you could go shop at, and they sell pizza, and you've got one pizza joint where 9 people gave it a thumbs up and 1 person gave it a thumbs down, and that score is right there on Yelp, and then the pizza shop next to it has 6 people giving it a thumbs up and 4 giving it a thumbs down, so it gets a 60%. Which place are you going to buy pizza from? It's simple. It's simple, bro. You're talking about something that it feels like cope. It's like the pizza joint would be like, well, more people like our pizza than don't like it. Oh, for Pete's sakes. It's a 60%. It's not a good score. I'm going to go with the place with the 80% or the 90%. I'm not going to go to the place with the 60%. It represents the quality of what they make. That almost the same number of people didn't like it as the people that did. 6 versus 4? That's not very good at all. If I went to a party and 6 people wanted me to be there and 4 people hated my guts, I probably wouldn't go to that party. You can't spin this, baby boy. You can spend money to talk down to me all you want. I don't think you're getting a lot out of your business degree if you think a 60% is a good score. Did you get 60% on your tests? Did you get 60% on your tests? I tell you what, if I went into your classroom and I was looking for somebody to hire and you're getting 60% on your tests and Billy over here is getting 90s, I'm going to hire him. Like, what are we even talking about? There's no spin here. It's not a good score. It isn't a good score. It's to me, what you're doing is you're doing the classic. You can take any stat and make it represent something else. You're like, well, yes, it has a 60%, but what that means is that more people liked it than didn't. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that the game has a good review score. A 3.9 GPA? Well, your 3.9 GPA is better than Starfield's score. So, if you pass 6 tests and you fail 4 tests, I don't think that you're making the dean's list. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a very good score. It's not a score that represents a quality piece of product. When you go to Steam and you see a game with a 60% and you see a game with a 90%, which game do you think is better? Which game? Like, think about what you're saying. More people liked it than disliked it. Okay, well, I can go to a game that has a 90% and I can say way more people liked it than didn't like it. And you know what you just did? You just created a continuum where this game's better than that game. Even if we grant your point, you're right, more people like Starfield than disliked it on Steam. Okay, cool. Here's where it stands, right? I can go to another game that says 90% liked it, 10% didn't, and I would say, well, this game has way more people that liked it versus disliked it. Ergo, even according to your own argumentation, this game has a better score. This game's better. Like, stating that more people liked it than disliked it with the 60% is not saying anything. The game, my friend, could have a 51%, and you'd still be right. Well, I mean, 51 people liked it, 49 people disliked it. More people like Starfield than disliked it. That's what you're arguing. It's absurd. It's like, well, if 51 people like it and 49 don't, are we going to brag about that? Are you going to put that on the placard in the marketing? I think it comes down to the cult following. Most of the fans like it, though it's polarizing. Plus, how do we correct for review bombing? Steam does not allow review bombing. It doesn't work. You think that people review bombed a game with 100,000 review scores? Like, there absolutely was zero evidence of review bombing in Steam. There was zero evidence that would even work because Steam combats review bombing. Steam does not count evidence of review bombing in the total score. They don't count refunds either. So you can't like buy the game, leave a bad review, and then refund it. They don't let you do that. Everybody had all these wild harebrained theories about what happened. Starfield score on Steam is representative of what the community that played it thinks. You can go read on Steam lengthy reviews. I mean, books written by long-standing Bethesda fans. You can check their accounts. You can check the games that they've played. And long-standing Bethesda fans were like, this game is not it. It's not. The older Bethesda games had a boost in player activity in the wake of Starfield. Because do you want to know what happened? All these Bethesda fans were like, I'm just going to go play a good game because this is not a good game. The problem with what you're doing is the same problem with what other people did. Thank you, Kingslayer, for the 2 spot. The problem with what you're doing is the same problem that everybody else did. You don't allow for the fact that people genuinely disliked the game. And what that is a sign of insecurity. I don't care if you liked it. Doesn't matter to me. It doesn't bother me. I liked the game. Cool, man. Go have a ball. somebody comes in the room and says, I didn't like it. And it's like, we always have to explain that away. They're not a real fan. They're review bombing. Who plays a game for 80 hours and then gives it a bad score? You're lying. And it's just like, we're trying to find out all these ways we can bend our back and squeeze through the hoop of like, let's find a way to dismiss all these negative reviews. It's ridiculous. Does anybody dismiss the positive reviews? I've never dismissed the positive reviews. Not once have I ever tried to explain away and say, oh, the positive reviews don't count, or the positive reviews are just Xbox fans, or the positive reviews are just people that were paid. Like, I've never done that. I've never tried to dismiss the positive reviews. Not once. I've always said, I can understand why people like it. I think there's good things here. It's not for me. I think the quality's low. I think there's significant things that hold it back. It's got things that feel outdated. It's got things that feel archaic. It's 2024 that launched a game on Xbox at 30 FPS with loading screens every 20 feet, and you wonder why it didn't get a great score on Steam. It doesn't even have a good score on Xbox, for crying out loud. It doesn't. A $5 Super Chat tip. Most people like it. That's such a misrepresentation. Most people like it. That statement does not represent the scores. The scores say that it has a failing grade. And you could say more people like it than don't like it. But saying most people? What's most people? You know what I mean? Another $5 Super Chat tip says, it's not explained away. Starfield hate generates billions of views and clicks. You can't bend your back around raw numbers. Jordan Shrug. Keep Jordan shrugging. You're going to find your elbows out of socket. Listen to me. If you're going to claim that it's hate, you're going to claim that the people leaving reviews hate, I'm going to say this to you straight-faced with my chest. I don't respect your position, because your position is ignorant and uncharitable. It's not backed by facts or research. I have gone to Steam, I have read the reviews, and I have respect of the people that have 100 hours in a game. They have 100 hours in a game, and they're a Bethesda fan, and they go through meticulously and they spell out all the things they don't like about Starfield. And guys like you walk in a room and you want to dismiss it and call it hate. Listen, you're just being insecure. If you like a game, then like a game. You don't have to explain away criticism or negativity about the game and label it as hate. It's ignorant. It's completely ignorant. That would be like the people that don't like the game claiming, well, the people that like it are just fanboys. That doesn't even make any sense. It's not logical. It's an emotional reaction. It's like, well, they're just hating. Where's the evidence of that? Is there any evidence on Steam that these people are hating? Can you find a pattern of reviews on Steam that are hating? Have you gone and you read them? I've read them. I've pulled them up on my stream. There are thoughtful, long-standing Bethesda fans that just like, this game just isn't it. And they go through and they do pros and cons. They meticulously outline all the things they felt like the game failed to do. And then guys like you want to be like, well, they're just hating. Agree to disagree, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I find about people who say agree to disagree? I find they're typically wrong. They're wrong. It's most commonly said by people who are wrong. I don't disagree technically with what you said, but you have to admit that if 6 out of 10 people like a game and 4 don't, the game that has 9 out of 10 people liking it is a better game. It has a better score. According to your own argumentation, this is a better percentage over here. There's even more people that like it than dislike it, which is then a stronger score, which is then, I think, a better game. You can get an approximation of a game's value when you have aggregate scores from the community after months of a game being out. This was supposed to be a positive Starfield stream, and a Starfield fan turned it negative. You can't make this up. It's like clockwork. And a 20 bomb from MASH, he says. Thank you, MASH. Takes us to 31 out of 50. An agent of chaos. I now owe you guys 5. Every 25, I owe you 5. You guys only need 100 a day. and you only need 100 tomorrow. We lowered the goal because of what you guys did last week. We're basically giving you credit for what you did last week. So as a thank you, we're going to give you guys that opportunity. If you guys can get 100 members today and 100 members tomorrow, basically 200 total, then Hilly and I have to play Elden Ring tomorrow night. We will play the other game as well. We'll do both. You basically get 2 for the price of 1. You get 2 streams. There's the 5 that I owe you. 59% is failing on a grading scale. It's a majority on the binary scale. There's 2 different scales. It didn't mean 59% is good in either case. I don't think I would ever buy a product, right? I don't think you're mad because most people like it. No, nobody's mad. No. We have found your argumentation to be bewildering for an alleged business college graduate. Nobody's mad. Why would anybody be mad? That doesn't even make any logical sense. I'm angry that people like it. No, the frustration has been expressed with your argumentation, with your dismissal of people giving it a bad score, that being summarized as hate. You bought it already? I bought it twice. I bought it twice. Do you know who you're talking to? I bought the game twice. Like, what do you mean? Why would I be mad that people like it? I literally have videos on my channel defending the game before it came out, after it came out saying, I hope they have a Cyberpunk moment. Today I argued it's my new Cyberpunk. I'm pulling for the game. I want it to turn around. I hope that Shattered Space is a turnaround moment for the game. I'm rooting for this game. I bought it twice, and I would like it to be a game that I would enjoy as much as I bought Cyberpunk. I bought Cyberpunk twice, and I false started with the game numerous times. Why? Because Cyberpunk, in similar fashion, had a rough launch, had all these problems. They committed to fixing it, and then guess what? They landed the plane with Phantom Liberty. And I'm like, if they can pull it off with Starfield, the game has massive potential. It was the most talked about game the year that it came out. It's Bethesda, for crying out loud, right? They're well known. They're respected in the industry. As much as we make fun of Todd, there are people that worship him. You have to be okay with raw numbers. Okay, let me explain something to you, which is weird given that you graduated from college with a business degree. Raw numbers mean nothing without interpretation. Right? I can tell you that 6 people went into the store and 4 people didn't. Do you know what that means? No, you don't. Without interpretation and without context, you have no idea what those numbers mean. Raw numbers, apart from context and interpretation, mean nothing. Raw numbers don't communicate. They don't. They don't communicate anything. They give us data that can then be interpreted according to the context of what happened. Right? Like, you could say that this game sold more copies than Helldivers 2. You could find a game that sold more copies than Helldivers 2. Does that comment mean anything? Does it? No. Because you'd have to view Helldivers 2 sales in context. How long as the game came out? What were their projected sales? Right? You'd have to look at those things to understand, does that mean anything? Raw data doesn't mean anything apart from context and interpretation. So your raw data is, you technically stated something that was accurate, technically, but it doesn't communicate quality or value in a game. It doesn't. More people liked it than disliked it. Yes, you have a wonderful ratio of 6-4. Even if you said 5 out of 5, if you said 5 people don't, 5 people do, you'd be like, that's good in my book. That's not good in my book. I mean, that's, I guess, a subjective opinion about how good something needs to be, but you're still getting an approximation of something's value when you hear that 5 people liked it and 5 people didn't. Eugene says, most people don't like it. All we know is that less than 60% of the people who bought it were predisposed to like it and kept it, will recommend it to a friend. That's a horrible ratio. Hang on. Ghost in the Garage said something. Where is it? Where's my man's comment? Ghost in the Garage says, former CFO here, and if my company had a 59% approval rating, the board would have canned me ages ago. It's really weird how Scrumman Man's arguing against absolute facts of the law of averages. That's what I mean. Like, I don't think I've ever had anybody take this argument. The reason that I engaged with him is because he was super chatting and he was being respectful, right? I'm not going to ignore somebody's super chats. That would be incredibly rude. And he was being respectful. But genuinely speaking, I've never seen anybody make this argument, ever. It's like, let me get this straight. The Starfield score has been unimpressive, according to the users, since the very beginning, and it was always hand-waved, and Metacritic was championed. Yes, because all those outlets with Xbox in their name, I'm sure they didn't pad the score, like, at all. So the user scores were dismissed from the very beginning. You know, it didn't have a great score on Xbox, like a 7 out of 10. That's not a great score for your biggest release of probably the last 10 years, and most talked about game, hyped up game, and it gets a 7 out of 10, a middling score, right? Not a very good score when 25 million people can download it for nothing. They can just download it. And that's the score that it got. Dodevas hits 30 months of members and does his traditional 5-bomb drop right after the fact. Thank you so much, Dodevas. So that was dismissed, and then the Steam numbers continued to fall, and we were told that it was review bombing. When that myth got shot down, because it was impossible to substantiate that claim, there were way too many reviews to argue that it had been review bombed. There's a history of Steam saying they prevent review bombing from happening. They don't count people who have refunded the game, so it's not like you can go buy the game, play for 20 minutes, and give it a bad review and tank its score. So all of those myths and rumors and conspiracies, they get demolished. And now, as the score continues to fall, this is your Alamo. This is your safe haven. This is where you're going to retreat. You're going to say, well, more people like it than don't. It's this hive mind of hate that's basically capitalizing on the game to hate it and make money on it. 100,000 people reviewed the game on Steam, and roughly 40% of those people gave it a bad score. So roughly 40,000 something odd people were like, I'm going to profit from this somehow. I'm going to write 3 paragraphs of thoughtful review analysis because why? They're not making any money off of that. The score is falling because people are review bombing for the optional paid mods. No, the score was falling before that. That simply isn't true. The score has fallen more recently because of the paid mods. Prior to that, it was consistently falling. The score kept coming down. You haven't been tracking it. If you think that it's only falling because of the review bombing from the paid mods, no. Every month it was falling. Every month it was like, you could go check it and see that the score had gone down. The most consistent reviews were always the lowest. I wonder why. We got distance from the game and there wasn't a bunch of padded perfect scores in there. The whole thing is a joke. Like, if you want to talk about this game's review scores on Steam or the user scores on Xbox, you just have to admit it, that it didn't land well with the public. It just didn't. Yeah, exactly, Mr. Grimm. After the first month, the score just kept falling because it no longer had all of the pre-order padding. Because what happened is a bunch of people pre-ordered it and they got early access. And all those people that refunded the game and didn't keep the game, they don't even get to affect the score. So your first week has way more people in the score mix that are basically automatically going to give it a thumbs up. Why? They kept the game. They're more predisposed to like it because they had an opportunity to get rid of it. They had an opportunity to get rid of it. They had an opportunity to refund it, and they didn't. So those people are more likely to give it a thumbs up. So your early scores are naturally leaning towards a favorable score. But as you get distance from that, and people are just playing the game and giving it their own assessment, the score just goes down. And you've got to figure out a way to explain that away other than just, I don't know, apply Occam's razor. People don't like the game that much. The people reviewing the game aren't enjoying it. That's a simple explanation. Daniel Fannin with a month of membership says, shifting from this argument, Shattered Space looks okay. That's kind of a problem too. It's just okay. I actually think it looks really good. I don't think it looks just okay. I think Shattered Space looks very good. It looks like something that I would enjoy. And when he related it to Far Harbor in the Matty Plays interview, I loved Far Harbor. I remember streaming that. It was a blast. Broken Lobo with 7 months of membership says, Sex Panther argumentation. It works 60% of the time, all the time. You can't even give these games flowers. This crap is a legitimate effing condition. I don't know what else you could call this. Yeah, I wasn't going to let trolls hijack the stream today, but he kept super chatting, and it's like, well, you're kind of taking the stream hostage when you do that. I'm not going to ignore someone's super chats, especially when they're being respectful. If someone super chats and is like, you're an idiot pony, well, we're just going to block that person and we're going to move on, right? He called me baby boy, whatever. I mean, that's fine. That was condescending, but it wasn't like outright rude or like, name calling. Okay, it was a little condescending. I'm probably twice his age. But the point being, there wasn't anything I could do. It's like the dude's giving me $5 every 30 seconds to make his point. I've got to read what he's saying. And yes, a positive Starfield stream about how I'm like, yo, they're going to commit to this game for 10 years. I really think this game's got it. I think they could do an online thing. I think they could do this. And you hijack the stream and you make me argue. And this always happens. This has been happening for 2 years. This has been happening for like 2 years. A really, really bad argument in favor of Xbox is made, and I have to smack it down. And when I smack it down, my argumentation, smacking it down, is then weaponized to say, see, look at this pony. There was a time where people would come in here on alts, and they would intentionally make horrendously stupid arguments, and I would take the bait, and I would smack it down, and then that gets clipped, and all you see is, look at this guy shouting and screaming about Xbox, and it's like, yeah, you missed the moron that disrupted chat for 25 minutes with brain-dead argumentation. You don't see that. Well, I caught on, and I don't let them do it anymore. I had a couple people do it this week. I had a couple people do it in the last couple of weeks. They come in, gray name, 2-week-old account, and they try to bait me into arguing with their intentional voluntary stupidity. Like they're being stupid on purpose because they know I'm going to take the bait. Well, I don't do that anymore. Well, there's nothing I can do about somebody tipping me $5. I don't even know how many times he did it. There's nothing I can do. It's like, I got to engage with this. Like, more people like it than don't like it. And I was like, look it up. So I go and look it up. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're technically correct, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean the game has a favorable score. He couldn't have gifted subs. Oh, Jiminy Christmas. It was $200 Lono paid. Starfield's a poo game. Like, at least not No Man's Sky has freedom exploration. Wasn't Starfield 99? Well, no, it's only that much if you buy, like, the collector's edition. Yeah, you didn't have to spend that much. I mean, I bought the collector's edition. I got the case. I've got the watch. You know. Shout out my 29 months. Oh, did I miss you, Mick D09? I'm sorry. Mick D09 with 29 months. Can't wait for tomorrow's Elden Ring stream. Smash the like button. Fuzzy with 31 months in a VIP. Are we sure Bethesda devs aren't in here convincing people that the game is good again? He did it. He did it 10 times. He tipped $5 10 times. He's already hit a super chat milestone on my channel 10 times. $50. That's 10 members. Dope shirt, sir. Thank you, Feed. If you guys like my shirt, it is from Into the AM. I've got some new shirts on the way. They're always publishing new shirts, and you can always use my code Lono, or you can go to intotheam.com/Lono. Add it to the count. I'm not adding that to the count. No, you guys don't get credit for 10 members because he did $50. No. If you got 6 out of 10 voters, you'd be the next president, prime minister, supreme leader, or boss. Does that count as positive spin? That is true. That is actually true. When you're running for office, 6 out of 10 ain't bad, you know? But Starfield's not running for office. It's a product where its value is assessed and measured, and you would never do that. You would never go. How do you get that on the scale? Okay, so yeah, that would be like going to Amazon and seeing 3 out of 5 stars and being like, well, more people like it than don't. I'm gonna buy this. Which parachute are you buying? Which bungee cord are you buying, right? The one with the 6 out of 10 score or the 9 out of 10 score, you know? I'm going to jump out of an airplane and I need to buy my parachute ahead of time. And the guy at the counter's like, well, this one over here is, it's got 6 out of 10. So more people lived than died. This one over here's got 9. Which one are you buying? Daniel Fannin with a $5 super chat. I don't think that Starfield so much hated as people were disappointed. Potential is there, but I'm on New Game Plus 4 with hours and it's just boring. Right. And here's what always frustrates me, Daniel. Your opinion is dismissed by pro Xbox YouTubers and pro Xbox personalities. They reject your opinion. They're like, you're lying. Who plays a game, New Game Plus 4 times and doesn't like it or thinks it's boring? And it's like, what? Just because you don't understand why somebody would do that doesn't mean that they wouldn't do it. Plenty of people play games that they're not enjoying completely and wholly. I've played games where I'm like, I'm just trying to get to the end. I've actually abandoned that recently. I loved Prince of Persia and couldn't put it down. I didn't really love Tales of Kansera, so I put it down. I was like, I'm not going to play this. I'm not actually enjoying it that much. I'm not going to force myself to roll credits on a game if I'm not having a good time. Now, there are people different than me. There are people that are going to be like, nope, I played it all the way to the end. Even though I really wasn't enjoying it, I wanted to complete it. And it's like, I'm not like that anymore. I'm not. And that doesn't mean that I would disrespect or dismiss people that are different than me and be like, oh yeah, you kept playing and you didn't like it? You're a liar. Who rolls credits on a game that they didn't like? I would never say that. That's so dismissive. It's like you just presume what they would or wouldn't do and then accuse them of lying? Like, what in the world? No, everybody's different. Some people are like, I got to see this through to the end. You do that with TV shows. You do that with movies. People do it with video games. They see it through to the end, and they're like, total assessment, not good. I made it to the end. It's hard to know if there would be any negative reviews. Like, are the deceased family logging into Amazon to write a negative review? I think they're maybe a little preoccupied to do that. You do it 4 times, you've worked out all the nuance, all the faction quests and the main quests. I saw Kai's trailer for him doing his Elden Ring marathon. I can't imagine. I can't get into the headspace of what it must be like. I like Kai a lot. I like what he brings to the streaming space. I can't get into the headspace of being like, all right, y'all, I'm going to do a marathon in this game. And what I need is an 8-minute movie level trailer for this. And I want to be running around in Elden Ring armor. And they're like, okay, let's do it. I can't imagine being at that level. Like, it's not even in my hemisphere of understanding. I'm like, I don't know what that must be like. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. You can't stand Kai? Why? What's the matter with Kai? Oh my gosh. Dude's getting to hang out with friggin' Drewski and Kevin Hart. All right. That would be like me sitting here hanging out with Bill Burr. I don't get it. He'd be smoking a cigar, laughing like he does. That would be a dream come true. to have that angry ginger hanging out in my studio. Oh my gosh. Ending for sure can affect the final score. Final ending of Nier Automata makes it a 10 out of 10. Ending of Jedi Survivor brings it down. Oh, really? I thought the ending of Survivor was amazing. I thought it was great. Yeah, right, Liquid Smoke? You guys are sitting here talking about video games. What are you doing? He'd be so angry, you know? Maybe not. I wonder if somebody like Bill Burr, like as a bit, he would do that, right? He would like make fun of what we're doing. But I think intellectually he would get it. Like the podcast thing that's taken off for comedians, I think he would get it. Like people just like to listen to conversation. They like to listen to people talk. It's like there's a huge industry for it, you know? I mean, Bill Burr would understand the idea of getting paid to talk, for crying out loud, right? There is so much more that goes into what they do, though. Obviously, their ability to joke craft. Like, yeah, somebody put an animation of his helicopter bit in the Discord. To this day, I think the way he's crafted that helicopter joke, from the structure of it, the retelling of it from two perspectives, and the physicality that he brings to the joke, I think it's one of the best crafted jokes I've ever seen. I really do. Like, if you break that joke down and you think about the work that he had to put into just that joke alone, because he tells it from two perspectives, which is incredibly brave in comedy because you're repeating yourself, right? The redundancy of the joke can land flat if you're not careful. So it's a callback. It's an immediate callback, which is very weird, and he brings this massive level of physicality to it. He's moving the mic. He's doing the unbuckling. Like, that joke is I think is one of the greatest crafted jokes I've ever seen. Just I have so much respect for that joke in particular. I show Speed and Kai are my favorite streamers to watch. Yeah, you know, as long as Speed calms down and stops getting banned, I think he's got a he can do whatever. Well, he kind of can do whatever he wants. He doesn't really need to stream anymore. But I want him. I liked Speed, but as a young man, I was like, let's leave the era where you're saying and doing things that are not great and just getting banned. Like, make your brand about something else, you know. And he seems to be. He seems like a good kid, you know. And I always worry about the young men. I'm like, these young men with all this money. It's like, you know, there's a road they can go down that's terrible and treacherous, you know. And there was a time where I was like, oh man, you know, you get the young guys especially. I worry about. My favorite joke from Zubair today. I'm imagining Momoa on the show and Lono just sitting there, jaw hanging down and not moving as Momoa tries to engage in conversations about Fallout. Yeah, him or Henry Cavill. Yeah. I would probably have a harder time talking to them than, like, you pick like some of the women celebrities that I think are really attractive. I would probably stumble and stare more with them. I'd be like, so what do you play? What video game do you play? Video games? They're like, are you okay, bro? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I love the premiere and how you focused on one of the topics in the interview. Yeah, let's try to bring things back on topic. No, I've not watched Acolyte. I've watched all the episode reviews on multiple YouTube channels. And it's worse than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, let's try to get things back on track here. We're well off in left field. We're well off in left field, which is fine. But I do want to, honor and be respectful to the trust of somebody who's clicking on this video and coming in and being like, what in the world's going on? This guy doesn't appreciate the interview. He doesn't appreciate the interview. He says, how many times does Todd Howard have to flat out lie to you people before you stop listening to anything he says? Y'all are ridiculous. I actually thought the interview was very candid and honest. It didn't feel like a bunch of hype. It didn't feel like main stage wearing a jacket Todd. It didn't feel like 16 times the detail Todd Howard. It doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like, I don't know, it just felt very candid. It felt very honest. It didn't feel like he was like trying to hype up the game or misrepresent the game. It didn't feel like any of that. Tom's a snake oil salesman? But what snake oil is he selling in the interview? What's he selling? He's talking about how, they want to support the game as long as they can, and you got to have a 10-year horizon. And I didn't, and he talked about how there is going to be another DLC. There is going to be, they would like to. Matty asked him, and it was like, yeah, we'd like to do an annual DLC, annual expansion. Because it's God Howard, says Daniel Fannin with a $2 super chat. The interview can feel candid, doesn't mean that he's deserving of trust. Well, no, certainly he said things that ended up feeling like, well, that wasn't honest or accurately representing of the topic, for sure. But in my estimation, I would say that this interview was just more like, this is what we're committed to. This is what we'd like to see with the game. And, he's going from there. It just works. You can't trust a word that comes out of Howard and Phil Spencer. Takes more than one interview to be deserving of trust. I don't think I'm arguing deserving of trust. I'm saying I don't see any reason to cast this interview to the side and act like we can't take anything in the interview even at face value. Like, I think I'm saying that this interview gives me confidence that they're going to go the distance with this game. They're committed to this game. This game could be in a much better state in the future. It could have a turnaround moment. That doesn't mean I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to believe everything that Starfield says, that Todd Howard says. I'm not arguing for the trustworthiness of Todd Howard. I'm saying this interview felt like what he said it just seems very plain and very candid and very accurate. It's like, I don't think he's trying to sell me on anything in this interview. A 2-spot from SDO. The Game Pass model, play a game, bin it, move on. I mean, that's why I still think their level of investment and commitment to Starfield only makes sense if you're gonna port it and sell it on PlayStation. I don't think their commitment to Starfield makes any sense if it's just gonna stay on Xbox and it's basically a Game Pass game. I don't see the angle there. That doesn't make any sense to me. If he's telling the truth, and I believe that he is, and that they approach Starfield with the similar mindset that they approached Fallout 76, you are describing an ongoing supported multi-plat game. You are not describing a game that's locked onto one platform and, you know, it's locked onto one platform and it's a Game Pass game. I just don't think so. I don't think that their strategy and the verbiage that he uses in the interview is like, yeah, we're going to support the game for 10 years and annual expansions, and you have to have like a 10-year horizon on a game. That to me does not sound like a game you don't bring to the PlayStation audience. Bethesda has so many people over there that would buy this game. If they can get it to better quality, then they wouldn't just buy it. They would review it and be like, it's good. It's in a better place. It's a solid game now. The way that Phantom Liberty got the reception that it did, I could see that happening for Starfield. Which, that's part of why I engaged the guy that super chatted so much money about the review score of the game. This idea that it doesn't need a comeback, it doesn't need a turnaround, it doesn't need a redemption arc. And it's like, I reject that idea. It's like, if you look at the game standing with the users, if you look at the game standing and you ignore the padded Metacritic score, if you look at that, it's like, no, this game 100% could get to a better place. It was like engaging with the Cyberpunk guys that were like, it's always been a good game, it's always been a great game, what's the big deal? And it's like, you're basically looking at CD Projekt Red committing to years of improvement, fixes, and making the game better and having a 2.0 moment, and you're basically not giving them credit for that. You're acting like that wasn't necessary, or it wasn't needed, or, yeah, no, it doesn't need a redemption arc, it's always been great. And it's like, well, then what in the world is CD Projekt Red doing all this time? And same for Starfield. It's like, if Starfield doesn't need a redemption arc, then why are they going to update it all this year? Why are there just CVS receipt length patch notes for the game? Why? If it doesn't need a redemption arc and it's totally fine and great, then why would they need to do all of that? How many games come out and do that? How many? Did Elden Ring do that? Did God of War do that? Did Horizon do that? Did they come out and basically say, we're going to update the game every 6 weeks next year, and then basically do nothing but fix bugs and problems and add features like the city map thing? Like, that right there, it's like, you're taking away from Bethesda's work with your false narrative. You're not even giving them their due credit. It's like, they're committed to the game, they're making the game better, they're putting on a course of betterment, and you're acting like it doesn't need it. And it's like, well, I guess don't give them credit for all the work they're doing then in turning the ship around. You're ignoring all the review bombs and influencer-inspired rating campaigns. That never happened. There was never a single amount of substantive evidence that there were review bombs. All evidence points to the contrary. All evidence points to the fact that you cannot review bomb on Steam. It's not possible. There's 100,000 anyway. They announced the extended dev cycle before the game even launched. They announced that they were going to be fixing the game, updating the game every 6 weeks in 2024 after the game came out. How many games do that? And you wouldn't consider them then in need of a redemption arc. Think of the other games that have done that. What other games have done that? Just consistently updating, fixing, and adding. How many? How many games have done that? What games have done that? No Man's Sky, Rainbow Six Siege, The Division 1, The Division 2, and Cyberpunk. What do all those games have in common? They needed a redemption arc. They needed to turn things around. Destiny 1 did the same thing. But somehow Starfield's in a different category? You see what I'm saying? Like, all those games needed redemption arcs, and we clap for No Man's Sky and Rainbow Six Siege. and Division 1 and Destiny 1 ended and everybody were thrilled with how far the games had come. Cyberpunk, everybody was thrilled with how far that game had come, how far it had improved, and Phantom Liberty gets an award. And it's like, those are fantastic redemption arcs, but you want to do this revisionist history, conspiracy theory nonsense with Starfield, and it's like, and why? Not based on facts, but based on fandom. So instead of giving Bethesda their due credit that they're doing good work, turning the game around, adding great features, putting this game on a path of redemption, you're going to be like, it doesn't need it. You hand wave the user score, you come up with conspiracy theories to explain away the user scores, and it's like, so Bethesda doesn't get any credit for acknowledging where the game stands with the users and puts it on a path of being better, and you just want to ignore that? The irony is, you are now making it really, really hard to celebrate when the game does have its moment, if it has it. If it has a 2.0 moment, you're robbing that moment of everything by basically being dishonest now about the state of the game. They say review bombs all the time, but they never mention those review boosters on Metacritic. Look at how many Xbox name review outlets boosted the score with 9s and 10s. That's exactly right. Yeah, Final Fantasy XIV had a huge comeback. And if we acted like Final Fantasy XIV was fine the whole time, if the really big fans of Final Fantasy got all fanatical and they were like, this game's fine, it doesn't need to be fixed, it's perfectly good, people are review bombing, people are hating, well, then you basically rob it of its redemption when it happens. It's like if somebody turns their life around and betters themselves and they get a job and they've completely changed, and if you're like, well, they've always been like that, it's like they would be upset. They'd be like, no, I haven't. Lono acting like the game can't get better without PS5. You're completely making up an argument I never said. I never said that it can't get better without the PS5. What you're saying is a lie. It's false. If you can be guest on one of these podcasts that do nothing but lie. I never said that. I said this game can be better, it can be put onto a redemption arc, and that Shattered Space can be the beginning of that turnaround story. Where in there do I mention the PS5? You're misunderstanding my logic when I say I can't see a company saying we're going to support a game for 10 years if you don't have plans to sell it on a platform where you have a huge chunk of your audience. I think internally when they said that, we're going to support this game for 10 years, that was a part of the plan. Was that, yes, we're going to support this game for 10 years ongoing because they did it with Fallout 76. As poorly as Fallout 76 launched, they committed to that game, and to their credit, they have significantly turned that game around. And to me, from an economic standpoint, I can't see a company justifying that level of commitment and that much content and improvement if you're not planning on selling the game on another platform. That to me is just like a logical economic connection. That is not me saying the game can't get better without the PS5. You're just a liar. I never said that or even insinuated that. The fact that they're this committed and they're going to deliver Shattered Space and it's an Xbox exclusive, I've talked about all of that being their ability to have a Cyberpunk moment. They can turn the game around. They can. And to act as if it's not needed is dishonest. It's dishonest. It's like, look at where the game is standing right now with the general public. You can parade your Metacritic score around all you want. That's like, what, 80 people versus 100,000? I think I'm going to take the 100,000. I think I'm going to take the thousands of people that have reviewed it on Xbox. I trust gamers more than these outlets. If I go to Steam and a game has a 92% and the outlets are giving it 7s and 8s, I'm going to trust the gamers every time. I'm going to trust the gamers every time. I'm never once going to think that, oh yeah, 100,000 people concocted and strategized to give this game a bad score. Like, that doesn't even make logical sense that many people would be able to like gather together and organize and do something that Steam actively works against. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't get any traction. It wouldn't even get noticed. They shut it down so fast when people start doing things like that. They have measures in place to stop people from being able to do that. That guy wasn't a real fan. Saying a game doesn't need a comeback doesn't make sense. If you like a game, an even better comeback is always welcomed. Yeah, I had the same conversations with the Cyberpunk fans. It's like, admit where the game is. Admit where it's standing. And then you get to celebrate just how far CD Projekt Red brought the game. Yo, Stone Spire's gifting a member and taking us to 37. Thank you so much, Stone Spire. Somebody better get ready. If I know Stone Spire, you guys better get ready. Yep, there he goes, 38. Somebody get their 10 bomb ready. Somebody get ready at the helm. You guys need 100 today and 100 tomorrow, and you can get halfway in the next couple of seconds. Somebody tag team with my man Stone Spire. That's literally my stance, says Lone Wolf. I love Starfield, but a lot of the others don't, so I'm excited to see them turn it around for those who don't like it. Another one from Stone Spire takes us to 39. And another one takes us to 40. Thank you so much. And 5 spot from MASH. Baby boy, Jordan Shrug. My man Jordan shrugs so much. I messed it up too. I said elbows out of socket, and I meant to say shoulders. I was going too fast. When it drops on PS5 with all the DLC and fixes and mods, the ponies will enjoy it very much. Oh, and another one from King Slayer. King Slayer helping out. Stone Spire bumps it to 41. Now the 10 bombs and Agent of Chaos. So, I am the Game Pro. Our super chatting friend. Do you believe it's coming to PS5? You're like, hey, when it comes to PS5 with all the DLC and fixes and the mods, you know, the ponies are going to like it very much. I think it'll be a different game by then, personally. I think it'll be a different game. And the debate then will be, oh, now it's a good game. You know, that'll be the debate. Is anybody praising the game at that point will be told, oh, you were lying back then and now it's a good game. And it'll be like, it's a completely different game. That's why I plan on jumping in to the Shattered Space DLC. I want to track the game's quality all the way. So when it does land on PS5, I can say, yeah, this is completely different than the experience I had day one. It's a night and day difference. When I played Phantom Liberty, it wasn't the same game. It wasn't the game that I had false started with so many times. It had been completely changed. Just how it felt. The pacing was so much better. The gunplay felt better. The world felt more alive. It just, everything about it felt better. They're already doing that with Sea of Thieves? Yeah, I mean, Sea of Thieves isn't the same game either. It's jam-packed full of content now. That game has come a really long way from where it did initially. But unsurprising, the player base spiked way up and then fell back down. That's not surprising at all. I think that game is very hard to enjoy. I think it's one of the prettiest, most satisfying, most chill games ever. And then every time you try to play it, somebody or something comes along and can just completely ruin your play session. That game's always going to have that, oh, this is so fun. And then a couple of days later, it's like, I'm sick of getting attacked. I'm sick of getting sunk. I'm sick of losing my progress. And then people walk away. It would have been universally loved if it wasn't taken away from ponies. It wasn't their most hype game. Only way, ripped from their hands, stabbed in the back. I think you're completely and utterly wrong, and I can demonstrate how wrong you are. Look at every single game that has launched with performance issues or 30 FPS issues on PlayStation, and it has a markedly lower score. The PlayStation audience doesn't accept games like that. They would have eviscerated Starfield in its current state. They would have eviscerated it. 30 FPS and all those loading screens? Are you kidding me? No. Every game that hits PlayStation that has performance troubles or deals with 30 FPS gets a markedly lower score than the games that don't. That Starfield would have gotten shredded by the PlayStation audience for those things. They would have been like, what in the world is this? A step back in time. Marshmallow with a $5 super chat tip says, I absolutely loved Anthem, and Infinite Warfare was my favorite COD, but would never say most people like them even though they have a positive score. Starfield really was a mess. If it launched on PlayStation, the game would have been in worse shape. Developing that game for multiple consoles would have screwed them. Except for Dragon's Dogma 2, it's got a good score on PlayStation. I mean, so, okay, yeah, Dragon's Dogma, I'll give you that one. But a title that big and beloved in Capcom, I mean, people overlook it. You go to all the other games that launch with issues, performance issues, 30 FPS, whether it was Lords of the Fallen or Gotham Knights, or what was the other one, the Plague Tale game. Those games always score lower. Wasn't Baldur's Gate 3 30 on PS5? No. You might be thinking of Dragon's Dogma 2. I'll give you Dragon's Dogma 2. That game overcame the 30 FPS because there was so much you could do in the game. The game's quality overrode it. People were like, oh, they didn't care. But if you look at the other games that land with performance issues and they get bad scores, I think that was even true of Jedi Survivor. I'm fairly certain, even Jedi Survivor. No, Jedi Survivor's score is fine. I thought it had a bad score on PlayStation. I must be thinking of PC. Jedi Survivor's got a perfectly fine score. Jedi Survivor, probably everybody was playing on quality mode. Most of Jedi Survivor's problems were in performance mode. That's probably why. If you played Jedi Survivor in performance mode, it was atrocious. But if you play Jedi Survivor in quality mode, you won't really notice it. There were still hitches in quality mode, but you don't see all the tearing and the frame drops that I saw in performance mode. It was awful in performance mode. Isn't it 30 FPS on split screen? Yeah, I'm not sure. Split screen usually drops your frames per second, though. Because if you do anything split screen, it's rendering the game twice. I remember my wife and I playing Borderlands 2. Yeah, but even Dragon's Dogma's score is again, it's lower than you would have expected. It's a 4.09. It's basically an 80. Right? And if you go to the games that don't have performance issues, Dragon's Dogma score on PlayStation isn't even that good. Go to a game like God of War Ragnarok, right? Go to the mainstay first-party titles that don't have any performance issues, okay? And what's their score? Why can't I buy the game? What's this landing page? Add to library. No, I just want the game. Where's the game's landing page so I can see the score for Ragnarok? What is this? What is this? Why can't I go to the game? There it is. 4.8. So Ragnarok has a 4.8. Dragon's Dogma has a 4. That's almost an entire point down. That proves my point. That literally proves my point. If a game lands on PlayStation and it's running at 30 FPS, like I said, it'll be markedly lower than the games that don't have performance issues. Starfield would have gotten eviscerated for being 30 FPS and having loading screens and feeling like kind of dated and feeling like Fallout. I don't think it would have fared well. As good as Dragon's Dogma 2 is, even its score is lower on PlayStation than you would expect to see, given the praise that it got. The media had very high praise. A lot of the YouTubers had very high praise for that game. Now, I don't know if Dragon's Dogma was able to turn it around on Steam, because I know initially it had pretty low score on Steam because there was all sorts of performance issues that people were complaining about. Yeah, it has a 60% on Steam. Like another glorious example of when a game has performance issues and doesn't run well, it gets a bad score. I don't think Starfield would have done well on PlayStation in its launch date. I simply don't. There's no way. It doesn't even have a good score on its home console. It has a 7. It has a 7, doesn't it? It's a 3.4 or something like that. Starfield Xbox Store, I think it's a 3.4. Kingslayer gifts a 5 bomb and gets us a little bit closer to 50 and takes us to 46. I've lowered the goal. I can't lower it any more than I did. I gave you guys credit for the extra members last week. You need 100 today and 100 tomorrow. If not, Hilly and I are just going to play Chain together. Yeah, it has a 3.4 on Xbox. That's a 68%. Starfield has a lower, a not great score. I would say that's a pretty bad score. A 68. It's a 68% on its home console. And you think it would have scored well on PlayStation, and PlayStation would have gobbled it up. And the only reason people are bagging it is because they're PlayStation fans. Well, ask the Xbox fans why they're giving a bad score. Go on, ask them. Why? Why is the home turf console that can play it on Game Pass giving it a 68? Why? A single gifted from MASH. Thank you so much. Taking us to 47 on the doorstep of 50. I'll owe you guys 5 more members. And a 5 bomb comes in from Siege Master, Agent of Chaos. He takes us to 52. You love to see it. Everybody piling on, getting us closer. They're like, we want to see you guys have to fight the Tree Sentinel. They're just undercover PlayStation ponies that bought it on Xbox to vote it down. Right. Oh, did I miss a super chat? I am so sorry, Rich Rod. Give me a second. I'm like pulling up web pages and stuff. I miss stuff sometimes. Rich Rod with a $5 super chat says, Starfield simply had bad bones. You can change the feel of the game if you want. It'll still have boring gameplay. Cyberpunk 77 had the bones. It was just buggy. I don't agree with you. I played a lot of Cyberpunk in the early days. I got all the way to the one where you were hacking in, what was it, the brain hacking or whatever the frick they called it. I got a decent chunk into that game, and its opening 5 hours was a fricking snooze fest. Even people that like Cyberpunk agree with me. They're like, yeah, the opening is pretty poor. It's pretty boring. It's not paced all that well. Happen again, Starfield fan turning the positive stream negative. Right, like saying that it would have gotten praise on PlayStation if it would have landed on PlayStation, I just think is unsubstantiated. It has a 68% on Xbox. Brain Dance, thank you. It has a 68% on Xbox. It has a 60% on Steam, and you think that what PlayStation would have just completely thought differently than there's 29,000 reviews on Xbox. Just round that up to 30. 30,000 reviews on Xbox. Over 100,000 reviews on Steam. 130,000 some odd people have reviewed this game, and it has a very unfavorable score. And you think, what, the PlayStation audience would have just been like, no, yeah, this is great. They would have broke from the masses. They would have broke from the masses and been like, no, we think this game is amazing. It's a masterpiece. See, that's what's interesting to me, is it's like you have to ignore all these people that have given Starfield a low or middling score. You have to ignore all those people. You act like they don't exist. Like, oh yeah, if it would have landed on PlayStation, they would have praised it and they would have given it a good score. What evidence do you have for that? It doesn't have a good score anywhere. I think Starfield on PS5 scores would have been similar. Yeah, it would have been in the 60s. Now, I guarantee you it would have been in the same place. It would have scored better on PlayStation if we got the version of the game that wasn't made by Bethesda and brought out by Microsoft that was held back by the Series S. I mean, obviously I have my theory about that, but I don't like going into that because it's like, it's just a theory. It would have won Game of the Year back in 2009. Yeah, I do. I feel like that's something that gets lost in the discussion a lot, is that I think that when you have game ideas and game tropes from, 10 or 15 years ago, like when, Fallout 4 came out in 2014, that's 10 years ago, right? Even at the time, there were people that said they didn't think it was a very good game. They didn't like the bugs or the glitches, okay? Well, at the time, I thought Fallout 4 was great, and I thought it kind of made up for the rough edges that it had. The issue with Starfield is it's basically so many of the systems from Fallout 4 just lifted one-to-one and dropped into a game, and it's like, okay, it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. Like, where's the innovation? Where's the new stuff? The flying mechanic's pretty cool, but the flying is so superfluous. It just isn't needed. It's not, and again, I don't think anybody like bought Starfield for flying. I mean, it's part of it, but the crux of the game is to go questing and go explore and to engage with NPCs and go on missions and make discoveries. It's not like, oh yeah, let me get in dogfights all day. And the shipbuilding is certainly cool, but it's no different than the base building and the stuff that you can do in the previous games. It's like it's the same idea. It's just a ship instead. The main problem with Starfield is it's just a bad RPG. Decisions don't matter or impact the world, and you don't have enough variations of weapons for builds. I don't know enough to comment on that. I enjoyed the dialogue system. I enjoyed the lock picking. I thought those were good systems. I thought those felt cool. They felt very Bethesdian. Like the lock picking felt like a nice little homage to the lock picking in Skyrim, and then I thought the dialogue system was enjoyable. And I usually don't like engaging in dialogue systems in games. It's just not something that I'm interested in. I thought they were good systems. I thought the gunplay felt better than Fallout, but then the gunplay in Cyberpunk felt better. So I do think they could improve the gunplay. I think the looting of the guns is terrible. It's no different than Fallout 4. You should be able to run over. I think anybody that you kill, all of the ammo should come out of the gun. You can just grab the pile of ammo. Instead, what you have to do is if you really want to maximize ammo economy, you have to pick up every weapon and then throw it back on the ground. When you pick up a weapon, it automatically adds that weapon's ammo to your reserves, which is incredibly stupid. So that if you want to actually have really, really good and maintained ammo economy, you're constantly picking up weapons that you have no interest in. You just throw it back down on the ground. You had to do the exact same thing in Fallout 4. It's like little things like that. They just didn't make any effort to improve stuff like that. Starfield is a better simulation. I'm not sure what you mean, Infinite. There is dialogue, but there's no choice. The lockpicking is closer to Oblivion. Skyrim was probably the first. I think that might have been the first Bethesda game I played. I didn't play Oblivion. Space Marine 2 gameplay overview starting in 15 minutes. There's also a Dune stream in 15 minutes. I'm not going to watch them. I figure we would either wait and see if anything significant comes out of them and then, maybe make a video next week. Because tomorrow's Elden Ring. We're going to be playing Shadow of the Erd Tree. My biggest concern with Space Marine 2 is just performance. Are they going to be able to maintain frames per second? Because that game looks insane to me. It looks insane. Like, I don't know how you're gonna maintain. I don't know how you're gonna maintain performance. There's so much going on. Did I gift the 5 that I owe you guys? I don't think I did. Let me do that. Better than Cyberpunk? I do like the feedback you get in Cyberpunk from the Rumble. Wait, what do you think in Starfield is better than Cyberpunk? No, there's no mic tomorrow. When big games or big DLCs drop on a Friday, we usually just play the DLC and that's it. So yeah, no show with Mike tomorrow. He might have actually been out of town. To be quite honest, he might not have been available anyway. The gunplay and how they handle. Oh, you think the gunplay in Starfield is better than Cyberpunk? Really? I mean, everybody's different. I thought the gunplay in Cyberpunk was significantly better. Yeah. Sorry. You're making me want to play Cyberpunk again? I put 22, maybe 26 hours into Phantom Liberty. I really liked it. Guys, before we're done for the day, let's try to get 300 likes on this video. I am shocked at the results that we have received from this. I think when I try to go positive about every time I've tried to go positive with an Xbox upload or an Xbox live show, it's so funny how the turnout is not very strong. I find that absolutely humorous to me. It's like, oh, he's going to be positive about Starfield. It wouldn't even surprise me if positive Starfield content doesn't hit certain feeds because people that's all they consume. It's like, I think they're just getting started. I think they could take this game the distance for the next 10 years. And it's just like, and people are like, nah, I'm not interested in that. If I would have made a video that was like, Starfield's not going to make it, it would have done better, which I'm not going to do. I don't like doing that. I don't like doing hit pieces. It's like, it's too easy. You know what I'm saying? I say what I think. If I've got a negative opinion, I make a negative video. If I'm concerned or worried, I make a video that I'm concerned or worried. I listened to that frickin' Todd Howard interview and I was like, I like what he's saying. I think they could really take this game far. I'd love to see an online game. People are like, we don't want to hear that, bro. We don't want to hear that, bro. You take that positivity, you take it the frick out of here, bro. Oh my gosh. The core audience is here. I'm talking about the pro Xbox crowd. They're like, how dare you try to be positive? And the couple that showed up just ended up taking us into a negative lane. They just took us into a negative lane. It's like, well, we're going to make you talk negative about Xbox. We need clips for our content, after all. Yo, Doc. Doc, are you getting any hate for your video? It did okay. It did okay. You need to name them. No, your naming's fine. The names are just kind of long. Like the Gamer's Perspective Podcast, Episode 3, Marvel vs. Capcom, Skipping Xbox is good. You should check out Todd Howard Unveils the Truth About Starfield at Honest Conference. I've seen the Honest Conference stuff. Yeah, that YouTube channel is really good. It is. Guys, we got 8 minutes before we're going to go to the writer's room. Let's get 24 more likes on the video. Listen. I'm not going to lower the goal again. I've lowered it once. I threw the gauntlet down tomorrow. If we basically now need tomorrow. This is what you're going to need. Let me give you the total. You are going to need 100, and we're going to go for 26, 27, and then I'm going to give you your bonus 200. You are going to need 140 members tomorrow. That's what you're going to need if you want to make Hilly and I play Elden Ring. Teach me. Well, what you'd probably want to do with your title, Doc, is you should have led with Marvel vs. Capcom Skipping Xbox is good for gamers. And then if you want to, you could put in parentheses the Gamer's Perspective Podcast Episode 3. Or maybe you could put the Gamer's Perspective Podcast Episode 3 in your description. So that way you just want your title to be punchy, right? Like, for example, you have a video on your channel that says Sony went day and date. It starts with 1, and it's got 2K views. You got another one here. Maybe Xbox does care about hardware. I also think, I wonder, yeah, without your mainstay feel, like you're not in the thumbnail standing there talking. I wonder if your people are like not. Maybe they're clicking less because they don't recognize your tried and true thumbnail of you standing in the tank top. I just think that your titles are always going to be more effective when they're punchy and not super long. Send me your editor info, but I need his Game Pass price. Well, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Yeah. Just say what you want to say in the title. I don't know if you want to have this, The Gamer's Perspective, Episode 3, in the title, because that's just really long. People are going to be less likely to maybe click. But if you punch them in the face with an opinion, like the absolute wild opinion that you had that Marvel vs. Capcom skipping Xbox is good for gamers, like that should have just been your title. You'd have gotten people so angry. So angry. So, let me schedule writers, though. And a 10 bomb from Noah. He's like, come on, boys, let's make a scramble at the buzzer here. And he takes us to 62 members. He's like, come on. He's like, let's make these boys play Elden Ring. He's got you guys in a good spot. You needed 100 a day and 100 tomorrow, and he got you a little bit closer. You hit 75. I'll owe you 5 more. You got a little bit of time here. You got 5 minutes. And another one comes in from Stonespire. If I know Stonespire, he's going to slowly walk this to 65. He's tempted another 10 bomb. He wants to see it jump from 65 to 75, and there Stonespire goes. He's going to take us to 64, and then he's going to take us to 65 with his single gifteds. Thank you so much. Somebody get your finger ready, man. Team up with this man. There it is. So faithful. Stonespire, always setting up those dunkers, man. I love it. I love this man. He's committed. He's just always there, going hard for the channel. I'm actually somewhat interested if Hilly and I could even beat the Tree Sentinel. Like I'm actually genuinely curious. But we're not gonna find out. We're not going to find out if y'all can't hit the goal. We'll just play. We're going to play chain together. We're going to play chain together no matter what, by the way. I don't want you guys to think like if you hit the goal, you miss out on a funny game. That wouldn't be a very good incentive. I have Elden Ring, but I just can't seem to get help playing it with friends. Well, Citizen JV, if you manage to get a membership here, get into our Discord, because we have places for people to connect in there, and there's people in this community that are playing Elden Ring together all the time. There's people that play Diablo together, Destiny together. Yeah, you 100% can team up and find people to play with. Go play Destiny if you want good gunplay. Oh yeah, I mean, if you want good gunplay, Destiny has the best. But if you want like a really, really elaborate RPG with, you know, these various skill builds and dialogue options and quests and missions that are tied to that, and you know, really, really, you know, narrative focus with characters. You know, there's good story and there's good gunplay, but Destiny's not going to give you that level of RPG that Cyberpunk does. And it certainly isn't going to give you the level of RPG that like a Starfield or a Fallout 4 gives you. You're on New Game Plus. You just started today. Nice. Nice. All right. You guys got 3 minutes. 3 minutes and we're out of here. You're 10 away from 75. I'll gift you 5. We always pay it forward. We always say thank you when we hit those milestones. You guys are the best. You might be able to pull this off. You might. Well, we'll see. Sometimes people come in and go crazy on Friday. We'll see if you guys can't set this up. Message for everyone. I'll be on tonight helping whoever needs help with Moog. I created a channel for helps, or just hit me up in the members chat or something. So yeah, we have somebody in our members only Discord saying he'll willingly help you fight Moog or Mog, however you're supposed to say it. I watched Mighty Keith this morning and he pronounced it Mog, and I was like, is it Mog? I thought it was Moog because of that H. You know what I mean? So if you guys get a gifted membership or you're paying for your own membership, you really should be in the members only Discord. It's an amazing way to connect with the community. We've added so many members. You guys really should be piling into that Discord. You should. It's a great place to connect. If I'm not live, you know, you can chat in there. Sometimes I poke my head in there and talk with you guys, you know, for a little bit. Might be a slow day as it's a hot day. Well, I think YouTube did something, if I'm honest. I think they did. The live stream, the impressions don't look right. I think maybe we had one of those weird days where YouTube did something funky. It might have been we were maybe only 20 or 30 minutes into the stream and we switched ingest servers, and sometimes that causes an issue with the stream, and YouTube's like, we don't want to recommend this stream because the viewership goes like this whenever there's an ingest server swap, and that can make YouTube very hesitant to promote because they might think something's wrong. They're like, oh, this stream's got weird behavior, and it's not my fault. It's like we just switched servers. Sadly, I don't have control over that. And a gifted member from Rodrigo, he's like, boys, we're a minute away. Are we really going to miss this by 9? We're going to see. Let me give you guys a link. Let me make sure redirect's set up. I'm going to provide you guys a link to Writer's Room, and then I'm going to redirect you as well. And yes, for those of you that watch the daily streams and that watch the daily talk shows, we will be playing the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC tomorrow. We will be playing that tomorrow. That'll be basically how we start the day. Gonna check out Space Marine 2. Yeah, we can pull up some of this stuff in members. We've done that before. All right, it's noon. I'm gonna put the members only writers room in the Discord. You like the name of that? The writers room is basically a behind the scenes look at how we plan out our shows and our content. Made available to both gifted members and paying members. So if you hang out enough to get a gifted member, you can come with us. If you like this content, if you watch and listen all the time, we have been asking folks to pick up their own memberships. Currently, we have like 620 people paying for their own memberships. We want to see that hit 700. And if it hits 700, I think we could start doing watch parties again to celebrate with the members. Maybe you could get my wife and I to watch something like Star Wars Acolyte, and we would just shred it with you guys. It would only be like a 45-minute stream. We would just do one episode, and we kind of work our way through every time you guys hit a milestone. So we do want to see that happen. So if you're not currently paying for your own membership, and you're like, oh, I could, we're wanting to say thank you to people to do that. So if we hit those milestones, we'll do even more streams. These are extra streams that we do, by the way, right? We do an extra stream on Friday night. We used to do watch parties on like Saturday night, right? That's taking from my personal life to hang out with you guys, and we're willing to do that. Like, we're willing to do that to say, hey, thanks, you guys are really supporting us and making this dream a reality. But I can't do extra streams all the time. Like, I can only do so many streams in a week. I can only do so many streams and extra member streams. So there's just a limited amount of time. Okay, so there's the link in chat. Obi-Wan watch party. You got to get people to start picking up their own memberships, man. We want to see that happen. The gifteds are amazing, but we need people to get committed and jump in if you want to start having those watch parties again, because that's basically a free night that we currently have that we spend together, and we would hang out with y'all and watch something. So, all right, let me start the member stream. Hey, thanks so much for being a member. And you guys are close. We lowered the member goal because you went so crazy last week. You went 200 over, so I gave you basically 200 credit this week. I think that's fair. You guys went above and beyond last week. So right now, you needed 100 today and tomorrow, and we fell a little bit short at 66, but if you guys hit it, you got tomorrow. We will be playing Shadow of the Erd Tree tomorrow, and then Hilly and I are going to play Chained together tomorrow night with drinks and laughs. But you can make us fight the Tree Sentinel in Elden Ring to kick off the stream, make us go through some pain before we get to the fun. You're not going to lose the chain together, by the way. We're still going to have that fun. I'm going to end the public stream and bring everybody over, and I'm going to change that thumbnail. Yeah, I'm heavily convinced that something happened with you.